Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now. We have our experts today, Kunal Bothra as well as Sharmila Joshi. And let's kickstart with the query segment. For all of our viewers, just a note before we start the query segment, we are live on all our social media handles. So do post in your queries as well as you can WhatsApp your queries to us. But don't forget to mention your name, the stock that you want to ask your question about, as well as the time horizon and your buy price. Let's move on and let's talk about this first query that we've got from Kaji De Cruz, and he wants to know whether it's a good time to buy HDFC Life. What's your take on this one, Kunal? Do you think it's the right time to venture into this name?
Good time to try and buy HDFC Life. The insurance space is looking strong on a longer term basis. These stocks have corrected more than 30% from their recent swing highs or 6-month highs for themselves. So I think it's a good time to try and buy HDFC Life, specifically if you have a time horizon of at least a couple of years and more.
We've got a question coming in from, I need to find Mr. Kasturi Rangan, and he's asking Kunal on Eicher Motors. For the long term, is it a good time to add to this counter at this juncture?
I think it's a good time to start nibbling into the stock. There was a period in 2022 start or end of 2021 where Eicher Motors was one of the top performers from the auto pack. It had crossed back even the 200 moving average. So which means that the stock had gone through a stronger round of momentum. You look at the long-term charts for Eicher Motors, it's been a good wealth creator. The fact that the stock is available at 2300, 2350 levels also makes it very attractive from a longer-term play. So I would suggest a buy on Eicher Motors at current levels.
Shanmuga Sundaram, IDFC First Bank, he has 700 shares, which is purchased at 45 rupees per share. Wants to know whether he can hold on for the next 1 year. Sharmila, how does IDFC First Bank look to you? Do you think it makes sense to hold on for 1 year or in fact more than that?
Yes, I think he can continue to hold IDFC First Bank. My target would be around 55 to 60. What we've really seen is that this bank has been through, that first sort of difficulty of setting up a new bank, etc. And now the financials seem to be improving. So ideally, your horizon should be more than 1 year. But even for 1 year, I think it's a reasonable stock to continue.
Sharmila, coming back to you for a couple of stocks here. We've got Poonam asking about Adani Ports as well as ICICI Bank. Would you buy these two counters at the current levels?
Yes, I think for sure ICICI Bank, Adani Ports, maybe I would sort of stagger my buying because I think in terms of valuations and etc., Adani Ports, while it's a good stock, I think you can sort of try to stagger your buying. But ICICI Bank, again, I think the broader advice would be to stagger, but I think that's a better stock for me at this point in time.
Okay, this one is from KR Balan, and he's saying that he had bought Kajaria Ceramics at the levels of 1100 rupees per share. He wants to know whether he should sell, hold, or switch. What's your take on this one, Kunal? Kajaria Ceramics, do you think makes sense to stay put with this one? Has been actually under pressure due to the crude price hike as well.
Well, I would say add, hold, and don't switch. I think it's a classical stock. It has done exceptionally well longer term wise. The fact that Kajaria Ceramics has corrected more than, I think, 40% or 35% to be precise from those 1350 or 1400 levels. I think till yesterday or day before, it was almost at 885. Even on, I think, last couple of days back on the show, I had mentioned about Kajaria Ceramics, indicating that the stock has come back to oversold territories. So that also makes the price wise or the price points very attractive for the stock. So we'll reiterate, a buy on Kajaria Ceramics, and if you're holding out from higher levels, I think it's a good time to average.
We've got a question coming in from Rajiv on Tata Power, whether it can be bought at the current level. On the fundamentals, Sharmila, how does it look? Power companies in focus, of course.
Yes, so I think within the power space, Tata Power is has been among the stocks that have done decently for themselves. I think that and probably JSW Energy and a couple of names. So these are stocks that I like within the space, but whether I would buy at this current price, perhaps not. I would continue to hold what I have, but I wouldn't add to my position.
So, Mr. Bhandari, BEL on the charts wants to know how this particular counter looks for the shorter term. Kunal, what's your take on BEL or Bharat Electronics PSU counter?
looks so quite okay on the charts. It's been a good outperformer, but purely on the short-term basis, I think the stock may lack a bit of momentum. 210.15 could be a range where the stock may, the pivot point where the stock may guide it towards. So, every time it tends to go much below the 210 mark, there could be demand which could come back again, and the stock may come back to 210 to 15 levels. And if it comes back to 225 to 30 levels, there should be more supply into the stock price. So my sense that 210 to 15 could be a pivot range from a very short run for BEL. I would not suggest a major position unless the stock is available at a significant discount from this pivot range.
Okay, Sharmila, we've got a question coming for you. This is from Krish, and he's asking about Dixon Tech, which he bought at levels of 5,100. He's asking if he should average his cost of acquisition, and his holding period is going to be 2 years, he says.
See, I think the trouble with all these stocks was that they were the growth stocks, and we bought them at very fancy valuations because that was the mood of the market at that point in time. You wanted to go for stocks without looking too closely at valuations because they were where you sort of projected very good growth to come going ahead. Now we have a scenario where a lot of large cap, sort of old stories which can do well and should do well in an improving economy have corrected 30-40%. So what I feel is that this is not the time to look at such stocks. I think go back to basics, look at some stocks which have corrected decently and are trading at sort of our value picks at this point in time, rather than chase growth stocks. I think their time will come. So continue to hold what you have, but I really wouldn't add more at this point.
Okay, this one's from Swaminathan Sundaresan, and he has 750 shares of Balrampur Chini, which was purchased at 407 rupees per share. He wants to know whether he should hold on to it or sell. Kunal, sugar, I believe, will be in sweet spot as well. We've had a lot of analysts over the past few days say that they're pretty positive on sugar space as a whole. So do you concur with that view? Do you think that Balrampur Chini is a good stock to stay put with currently? No doubt that Mr. Sundaresan is actually making some profit on his buy.
I think he's making good profits, assuming if it's a short-term purchase or the very recent purchase for the investor. And I also believe that from a longer-term play, sugar stocks have been something which could probably be more of a cyclical story, which could last. The trend in the story could last for at least a couple of years, if not more. But the only catch towards the year is the high beta nature of the sector. So the age factor also matters. The risk appetite also matters quite a lot for the investor if he wants to hold on to it from a longer term play, because these stocks they can show gyrations of 20-30% in a period of 6 months to 1 year. So if the investor is able to digest this kind of volatility, then it makes sense to hold on to stocks like Balrampur Chini.
The next question is for you, Sharmila. This is on Tata Motors. Sankalp is bought at levels of 450, and he's worried about the current scenario. I think a lot of factors to bear in mind, right? There's primarily Jaguar Land Rover because it accounts for most of the consolidated revenues. So what would you say in terms of the ability to pass on price increases, cost increases? Should you hold on to this stock for the long term?
I think you can continue to hold, but as you said, the concerns are many and at many levels for a stock like Tata Motors. One is, of course, the price that increase that we've seen in metal prices, because that is going to affect the cost of cars across the segment. Then again, I think the continuing Russia-Ukraine situation, and I think even earlier everything has happened has taken sort of, you are seeing that effect on the sales that they're doing for JLR, Land Rover and Land Rover. And let's not forget that is actually the bigger revenue earner for Tata Motors. Why Tata Motors also, of course, was doing well was this whole EV play in the Indian context, and they do have a very good EV launch in India. But that again could sort of face problems because again EV, the batteries, etc. That supply could also get hit because of the continuing Russia-Ukraine issue. So there seem to be many sort of roadblocks going ahead. But I do think that in the Indian context, it is a good passenger vehicle play to hold. So I would continue to hold it, but I wouldn't add.
This next one is coming from Shishrit Patnaik. He's saying that he has 3,000 shares of PNB, which is bought at the price of 32 rupees per share. He wants to know whether he should sell or book profits or move to something else that is more reliable. He's actually looking for a short-term bet for at least 3 months. What's your take on this one, Kunal? PNB, 3,000 shares of that particular counter bought at 32 rupees per share.
Well, if the viewer is very clear that he is looking out for only short term, then I would suggest to switch from PNB and look out for either Bank of Baroda, a stock which I've been consistently advising over the last 6-7 months, or you can look at even an SBI. That is both the distinction between both of them would depend on how much risk you are you're willing to take into these names. Bank of Baroda also looks very interesting. The stock is hovering on that 100-102 mark for itself. I believe could be poised for at least a 114-115 levels for the next 2 to 3 months. And for SPI, I think the stock can try and come back towards that 525-540 mark for itself for the very near term.
I'm hoping that you have a view on this, Kunal. This next one is on Map My India. I know it's a recent listing. 1,595 levels is where Puneet has bought it, and he's looking for a short-term view.
Tough one, Alex. I don't, track the stocks, so won't be able to offer any comment.
Okay, I'll take it to Sharmila then. Sharmila, one of the counters I think that people paid attention to around IPO time. Has it lived up to expectations is the question. And would you hold, what levels are you looking at?
Well, actually, I like within the sort of slew of IPOs that we had at that point in time, this was one of the stocks that I liked. And I do think that the way this company is run, as well as, the kind of businesses that they can scale up to within, using their sort of the software that they have expertise on. I think, there are many areas which they're currently exploring and plan to explore. So this is a good stock. I think, again, not one to look at like really too closely at valuation. But again, I think on the flip side, if you were to see, it hasn't suffered as badly as some of the other new listings of, around that time have suffered in terms of share price. So I think continue to hold what you have.
All right, this next one is coming in from R. Sarvanan, and he would like to know about the long-term prospect of Gujarat Ambuja exports. Do you track this one, Sharmila? Gujarat Ambuja exports, how does this one look over the longer term?
I'm afraid.
Okay. Kunal, do you track this one on the charts? How does Gujarat Ambuja exports look to you, in case if you track that is?
Apologies, I don't track that. So
okay, then let me take this one from Amey, and he's asking: are more corrections expected in the metal sector, Kunal? What are the charts saying about metal index to you? Do you see or anticipate some more correction in that space?
Well, I think frankly, if you ask me, I believe the metal stocks are priced quite attractively, and I believe the breakouts which these metal stocks have shown, I think they, according to me, they could be very strong, trending moves over the next few months. So not just on the moves of the global commodities. So, there have been so many global commodities which have made, 52-week highs, life highs and multi-year highs for themselves. But then the rally in our metal stocks have not been to such a strong extent. So I believe that, since these stocks have not risen up very sharply, the fall also may not be very sharp into these names. That could build in a case that they can get into a stable trend if the market also gets into a recovery phase. So my sense is that metal stocks, specifically the likes of Tata Steel, JSW Steel, JSPL, I believe could be good value buys at current levels. So I would suggest a buy in them rather than expecting for any major kind of a correction going forward.
Next one's also for you, Kunal. Between Bajaj Finance and ICICI Bank, Gauri is asking which you would pick for the next couple of years based on how the charts are looking right now.
Well, I don't know how to distinguish between one diamond and the other diamond. Both of them are classical, buys from a portfolio pick. Bajaj Finance, ICICI Bank, both are, leaders from their respective, core sectors for themselves. So very difficult to distinguish between these two names. If you have, the appetite or the capital required, then I would believe that you should try and bifurcate between these two names equally and hold on to it from that kind of a time frame which you have, and even more.
All right, this one is coming in from Chetu, and can Gulshan Poly be held for the longer term? Bought this particular counter at the price of 333 rupees per share. Sharmila, Gulshan Poly, do you track this one?
No, I'm afraid not. But if I could comment on the earlier one, I was taking a look at Gujarat Ambuja numbers, and they seem to be pretty strong. And there seems to be sort of an improved outlook for the maize business as well as cotton yarn. So I think that investor can continue to hold Gujarat Ambuja.
Mr. V. Mathur is writing in, and he's got a long-term view on HUL, which he bought at levels of 2,300. And he's asking Sharmila whether to hold or sell. He's saying that he has a 3+ year view.
I can only tell him to increase the horizon a little more because, I think these are the names which should form part of your stocks, which should form part of your core portfolio. So, yes, I think completely continue to hold HUL.
All right, this one is coming from Sagar, and he's asking whether he should buy Radico and United Spirits at current market price for the medium term. He wants a technical view on this one. Today, I believe we are seeing some sort of movement in these particular counters, Radico as well as USL. But over the medium term, do you think that it's the right price to buy these stocks, Kunal?
I think it's good price to buy Radico, United Spirits, and probably if you want to add, the mid-cap names like Global Spirits as well. I think these are good counters which have done pretty well for themselves over the longer term. The last 2 years were exceptionally good for these stocks, where I think these stocks have given returns of 5x or to 6x on an average. I'm talking of the mid-cap names specifically. So, given that kind of a context, it's a good opportunity to try and chip into these names. But then, given the market correction and what we've seen right now, I think it also makes good sense to do it in a staggered approach rather than going all out into these stocks at current levels.
Okay, I'm being asked to choose between two questions, and Bharat, I'm going to choose the first one that you've sent, which is a fundamental view on Sequent Scientific. Sharmila, I'm coming to you on this one. Would you suggest a fresh entry based on how the company looks?
This is actually a stock that I like, but I haven't really seen it recently. Let me take a quick look. Yes, I think you can possibly look to enter, but once again, my view would be to sort of do a staggered buying given the environment. But yes, otherwise, this is a stock that I like.
Right, and with that, let's kickstart with our rapid fire. So let me get this query first, and this one is from Amy, and she's saying that she's bought HDFC at a price of 2050 rupees per share. That's 2050 rupees per share. Should I book profits for now? What's your take, Kunal?
I think yes, you can book profits over here, but then look to buy closer to 2100.
Okay, 2100 I think is the level that Kunal is looking at. Shailesh is asking about Andhra Paper, which he bought at levels of 243. Sharmila, should he hold or exit at this point?
I think he can continue to take.
Okay, Mr. Balan has Z Entertainment purchased at 340 rupees per share. Wants to know whether it should sell, hold or switch. What's your take on this one, Kunal?
I would suggest to hold on, and if possible, the stock comes
Tata Motors or Kasturi Rangan.
That could be a good level where you can look to average.
Tata Motors or Maruti Suzuki, Mr. Kasturi Rangan wants to know. Sharmila, which one would you pick?
I actually like both, but maybe Tata Motors is more than Maruti.
Okay, we have Akhilanand from Bangalore asking about Bank of Baroda holding about 200 shares at the price of 56 rupees per share. Can I add more for the longer term for like 2 to 3 years, say? What's your take on this one, Sharmila? Bank of Baroda, makes sense?
Yes, I think you can add.
Mohan from Chennai is asking about Motherson Sumi, which he bought at levels 248 in June. And he's wondering whether he should hold. Sharmila?
Oh no, I think he needs to.
All right, this one is from Kavi, and Kavi is asking, can I buy Nifty 3000 shares on 16,950 call, expiry March 17? Is it better to sell or hold, Kunal?
I would suggest to book profit over here if you're already holding. My sense is that we are heading towards a resistance, so possibly the market can take a bit of a pause and the option value can drop down.
Okay, Prashant Narayan wants to know about Jubilant Foodworks, which he bought at levels of 3,369. Sharmila, should he hold on?
Yes, he can continue trading.
One more. Asian Paints bottom fishing. The question is from Dikshita. I completely forgot. Sharmila, would you buy into Asian Paints at this juncture?
Yes, but again, I think it's going to go staggered now.
Okay.
All right, and with that, we come to the end of the rapid fire as well as the query segment. Thank you so much, Kunal, as well as Sharmila, for joining us on the show, giving us your take on microfinance lenders, as well as helping our viewers make the right choices with their investment. But on that note, we'll slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. Stay tuned, more on the other side. Don't go anywhere.